Hello everybody, my name is Alexandra Guest and you are tuning into Straight Outta Eden. Everybody said at the beginning of lockdown the worst thing that you could do is start a podcast. So I just want to give you a little bit of faith that this podcast was not born as a result of the pandemic. This podcast has been a project of mine for quite some time. A couple of friends and I, Katrina Smith-Jackson and Latoya Wilson, we had a radio slot on a Luton-based radio where we did a monthly discussion about Christian topics and political ongoings in the world around us and what it felt like to be young Christian women in the world today. The project, of course, will have developed in light of recent political ongoings and the pandemic itself. And so one of the ways in which that manifests is no longer are we a radio show, but a podcast. And here I am hosting, and over the next few series and episodes, what we will do is have a conversation with an invited guest, and we will explore hot topics for the day. The person who I have invited today is a good friend of mine called Benjamin Brady. Now, I did tell him that this podcast exists in a particular format, the first 2 minutes of which are called Chat in a Hat, where we have to put on a hat and answer some fast series questions to get to know Benjamin Brady, or whoever the guest is. But he told me he doesn't have a hat, so we're about to berate him for that. So let me admit him in. Let's try. Hello.
Hello.
There you are. Excellent. Should I do gallery view? Oh, we're both on screen. Excellent.
Yeah, poor you.
You are live on Straight Outta Eden, so please do not swear.
I will try not to.
Are you going to do Chat in the Hat?
Well, we'll give it a go, but I've not got a hat, so we'll have to sort of...
I'm absolutely disappointed, Ben. You have to have a hat on because it impacts the way that you think. Why have you got a hat? Do you not own hats?
I do, but I think they're in other residence, and they're not here in Cambridge. They're in another vicarage somewhere in the country. But I hope my afro will suffice for today, as it's getting long, and I've got no hairdresser, so it's becoming a bit of a centerpiece.
Isn't your hair always a centerpiece? Oh, we'll come on to that later. Don't answer that question. For now, we've got 2 minutes of fast fire questions, and you have to answer the first thing. Oh, we'll do 1 minute. You have to answer the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
Ben.
How old are you?
23.
Are you Ben or Benjamin?
Ben.
Do you have any siblings?
One brother.
What's your favourite food?
Oh, shepherd's pie.
What's your favourite book?
Good Lord. Let's talk about race. I think that's a good one that I'm starting to look at the moment.
Oh, I thought you were just inviting me into conversation then. Okay, let's talk about race. By?
Ben Lindsay.
Excellent. What's your favourite song? I know this because I've seen you dancing to it.
Oh, good Lord.
My head's too small for this hat. Carry on.
What's my favourite song at the moment? Well, I was listening to Cilla Black this morning. I mean, that's dreadful, isn't it? But I know.
This is a place of no judgment for now. What were you listening to by Cilla Black?
Anyone Who Had a Heart. I think that was just on the radio, so I thought that's quite a nice tune.
What's your favourite Bible verse? 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, you're a heathen. You didn't even answer. That's it. 1 minute's up. My hair is now damaged. There we go. No favourite Bible verse? My
favourite Bible verse, I think, now I've got to be careful here, but make sure it's Romans. I believe that neither death nor life nor...
I love this. You ask a Christian, preferably go and ask somebody training for ministry or a priest what their favourite Bible verse is, and most of the time they stumble. Go on.
I want to say Romans 8, but I think it is Romans 8, 36 to 37, I think. Don't quote me on that one.
Shall we get a Bible out?
Oh, let's not. You've got a Bible in front of you.
Romans 8, I've even got a bookmark in. 36 to 37. Yes?
Right.
Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 36. As it is written, for your sake we are being killed all day long. We are accounted as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Is that the intended verse?
No, it's not, but that could be quite fitting for...
Do you mean there is no power? Here we go. I think this is what you meant. Oh no, death has no dominion over us? What do you think you're looking for?
No, it's Romans 8. It's
Oh, Ben.
I'm trying to get my Bible now.
Calling you.
Let's have a look.
For I am convinced, is that the one you're looking for?
That's the one I'm looking for. That neither death nor life.
Yep. I'm going to let you look for it. Are you going to Google it now?
No, I'm going to put you back on full screen as somebody called me and I can't now see you. Right,
It's all being recorded, by the way.
Wonderful.
I'm just going to let you carry on floundering because you are the student.
I am the student, but and you are
I'm convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor heights, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord.
That's the one.
Romans chapter 8, verse 38 to 39.
38, well.
So not 36, unfortunately.
Got 2 verses out. Apologies.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Ben. What do you do?
So I'm a Diocese of Manchester Ordinand, so I'm a trainee vicar. I'm in my 2nd year of 3 years in Ridley Hall in Cambridge. And I'm also a vocations ambassador, a media vocations ambassador for the Church of England, which when they have time and want to talk all things media, they might come to me and say, let's discuss something. So that could be on anything vocations-wise and going in papers or on Sky News, something like that, you know.
Oh, I'll just drop that in. How many times have you been on TV, Ben? As if I've never heard that before.
Oh, I can't remember. Enough. Not enough.
Enough that you cannot remember the amount of times you've been on TV.
Yeah. I end up being in more diocesan magazines now, and I know all these.
It's a hard life being a celebrity ordinand, is it not?
Do
you get hoarded by paparazzi and fans?
Oh, I wish.
You get stopped on the street by people who say, I know you, I've seen you on TV.
Never.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's
sorry.
the worst thing about it.
Some of us have to deal with that in our daily lives, but okay. Never mind. How long have you been studying or training to be a priest?
2 years.
How have you found it thus far?
I think, as you know, I think training has its highs and lows, up and down. It's not just about sitting in lectures and then
I don't know about sitting in lectures, but yes, carry on. And
barking out essays. I think. I mean, I try and behave myself when I am a full-time student in normal world. You know, in the normal world, virtual world, which we're in at the moment, and lectures and things are online. But I think formation also has to teach you things as well, which you don't think when you come here, or I think any institution, I don't think of that side of it. I thought it was lectures and work, paperwork, and then I leave. But you sort of, you come in a different person, you change through time, and you have different conversations and different attitudes, and you hear the different things, and you think, oh wow, it's a journey, but it's.
Ladies and gentlemen, you think, oh wow, when you are exposed to this great wealth and breadth of theological expertise. Oh wow.
That's the one.
Excellent. Let's have a chat about shepherd's pie being your favourite food. That's quite disgusting. I think it's abhorrent that anybody thought mincemeat and mashed potato ever belong together in one dish.
I know. I remember having it as a child, and that was the first dish I ever could make by myself. My mum and dad taught me. I can't remember. I think my mum taught me how to make it, and then it was something that me and my dad made when my mum was ministering or doing something different. And it was always. And as I grew up and grew older, I learned how to change in different ways and put red wine and other awful things in it.
A bit of red wine.
Drunk shepherd's pie. That's one of the best things to do on a Friday night, I think. But I think, secondly to that, when I moved to Manchester, I think curry goat has to follow.
Oh, finally, he brings in some proper food, curry goat. Who introduced you to curry goat?
A lovely Caribbean lady called Lynn, who took me round to a Caribbean takeaway one day after a meeting, and it was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought curry goat sounds interesting. Well, I ate it, and then every week for a year, I had curry goat on a Wednesday lunchtime, and I was sick of it by the time I left Manchester.
No, you never get sick of curry goat, I promise.
Now I live in Cambridge. I don't think I've had it for about 2 years.
I promise you. So you were exposed to a world of flavour.
A world of flavour.
And seasoning. Excellent. So tell me what led you to Manchester?
Both my parents are vicars, and my parents were vicars on the Isle of Man for 6 years, and then I stayed a bit longer. And I realised with my life that I think I always thought that the horizons were sort of better somewhere. And I felt called to all-day ministry. I needed some more experience. And I looked at a lot of internships, and I thought Manchester was a wonderful internship to go for when I was offered the job. And it was quite interesting because when I went, I didn't realise where I was going until my first sort of couple of weeks. And I realised I was going to Moss Side and Whalley Range.
I don't know what that is, so please.
So that is Moss Side. It was, if you Google Moss Side, you'll know that in the 80s it was a place where looting and riots. It was quite a dangerous place to live in Manchester for some time. And when I heard I was going to Moss Side, I was petrified. But and I thought I'd once again just be gaining experience for ministry and nothing else. But actually, I found out a lot more about myself in that year in Manchester as well.
What did you find out about yourself?
So I'm adopted. So both my parents are white. They were Salvation Army officers in the United Kingdom, and then they adopted me in '97 and '98, and I was brought over from Brazil, and we came to the Anglican Church for various reasons, and so we lived in Cambridge. We moved to Norfolk, where my dad was a curate, and obviously Norfolk after millennium was quite white, and then we moved to London. Where my mum became a vicar, and London was wonderful. I mean, it was so diverse. I remember my first day of school in London. I was about 8 years old, and I couldn't believe people looked like me. Mm-hmm. A lot of people. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 you see, I mean, a lot. And it was scary. It was petrifying. And then my parents' church, which they ran in London, they had Nigerians, they had Caribbeans, they had many different backgrounds and cultures. And I'm like, wow, this sort of exists. And I didn't like it because I think when I was in Norfolk, I was the only black one in the infant school in 2001. So I mean, I remember I think an incident took place with children when I was younger in this infant school, and I was taken out once a week, I think, by the head teacher, and I was shown different books about different races. I don't know if you get away with doing that nowadays, but I did, and. My parents were adamant that they abhorred racism in all its forms. I mean, a white couple adopting a black child and an Asian-looking child, and they weren't having it. And so they tried their very best to protect us. And when things were taking place, they fought our battles for us because we were too young to fight them. And Mr. Money took me out once a week for almost about a year, about year 2. And I went and sat in his office, and we looked at different books, and I found out simply who I was, but it didn't click really until actually I saw people like me.
So what sort of a difference does it make, not just engaging on paper, but face to face with people who look like you? Was that quite powerful for you?
So when I remember going to Manchester, and someone told me to go and visit a Caribbean couple in the 90s. They're married for a long time. And I thought, I'm very good with old people, that's one of I love my job being a pastoral assistant. And I thought I'd be going around for a piece of cake and a cup of tea.
Best part of the job, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, in my opinion, different sort of teas and coffees, and thinking to myself, right, I'm going to go in, spend half an hour, be quite nice and tranquil, and then leave. And I walk through the door and I see the husband, and he asked me about my life. He was interested, and I told him about my background. And then I said, what about you and your wife? How did you come to Manchester? And they actually came from Manchester, Jamaica in the 60s. And they were told by people over here that if you come to the motherland, the streets are paved with gold, and you can have a better life here. And as the husband said to me at first, little did I realise when I had to come here that people like me had to pave these streets with gold first. And then he told me the story of where he couldn't rent because no boarding houses would take people, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. So he had to save and save and save to buy. When he bought a house, he then devalued his neighbours' houses on either side who were white by £3,000 or £4,000 because him and his wife were black. And he told me the struggles he had. And the sadness in his eyes of what he saw. And actually, I looked at him and thought, I can't believe this. And he said, but I've seen it with my children in the 80s. Then they had children, and racism came about then. And now I have great-grandchildren. And as I spoke to him a couple of days ago, he said to me, I'm in my 90s. I'm not going to be here forever. When will I be able to leave this world? When will this world be safe for people who look like me and my children, my grandchildren? And those are the things that's what touches you. Mm. And it wasn't until I moved to Manchester where I really found out who I was, and being proud of what I looked like, my afro hair. Because it was a pain. I went to school with friends on the Isle of Man who had who had white hair, which I thought was normal. And so I remember I was going on a lad's holiday when I was 18. We wanted to go and get our hair done. We wanted to look cool, and trendy. And I had to pay through the roof to have my hair done. When they would only pay a tenner, I had to pay about £28. And I hated that, And then I remember once on the Isle of Man, we called monkey lips.
Wow.
And thinking actually, so I had a thing for a long time, I learned how to sort of tuck my lip in.
Right.
And that's what I did. And I remember a drama teacher saying, you need to open your mouth more. But it was just a natural thing because I wanted it to look normal. Mm. So it wasn't until I moved to Manchester and started to like my features and see other people like me, where I felt, it's sort of a place where actually I can be black and be myself in all its forms.
And people often think nowadays that racism is something that's confined to the past, to the depths of history, and that, post-civil rights movement, that we've abolished that indifference and injustice. But it sounds like from what you're saying that you've had frequent experiences with racism. And have you found that has come not just in explicit forms of racism, but also in subtleties and in school life and your work life and even the church?
So I can remember one story when I worked on the Isle of Man. I think one of the last jobs I had before I left. And there was a photo call taking place. I think somebody was coming in from the local government. And I was in the photograph, really. I think I was asked to be in the photograph to show diversity.
Wow.
And I thought, wow. So one black person, makes us all level. I thought to myself, at the time, I was like, oh, it's quite nice to be in a photograph, and it gets me away from my desk for 10 minutes. So, but when you look back, you think, or it's a lot of people, a lot of my friends will say, you're black, so you like Nando's. And actually, I might be black, but I don't, I'm not the greatest lover of chicken. It's the little things, that people, the little assumptions that people make.
Yeah.
And it comes not only offensively in your face, but I think it's subtle as well through time and experience. And I'm only young, so I'm sure I will face it through I don't want to face it, but at the moment I feel I will face it through my ministry and as I go along in life.
Do you think you will face it in church and in ministry?
Yes, I think so. And at the moment, you see, when I left Manchester, a little boy who was black asked his mum at my last service, which I was leading and preaching. He said, "Oh, what's Ben going to do?" And she went, "Oh, he's going to train to be a vicar." And he looked at his mum and he said, "There's going to be someone like me who looks like me in the church." And I just looked at this child and my heart broke. I'm not an emotional person, but I cried because I was like, wow. And that really touched my heart, and I think as I grow, and as we know in the Church of England, it's trying to become more diverse, but we've all got a long way to go in learning. And I think until we reach a place, we are going to struggle. And people like me and of BAME minorities will have their highs and lows, as anybody does, but I think especially with race, as we minister.
And how have some of the impacts or some of the events of the last couple of weeks that we've seen a greater movement and push for inclusivity and diversity in reaction to the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery in the States, has encouraged a kind of protest and a resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement in the UK. How has that impacted you, and how have you been involved with that over the last few days or weeks?
So, years ago, when things happened, race problems happened, I ignored it because I didn't know. I was, as I say, I was in a very much a white place, and I didn't understand it, and it was just another thing in the news. But this time, I don't know what happened 2 weeks ago, but something clicked. I think first and foremost, when I saw that brutal killing of George Floyd, I have seen the video maybe 3 times, and I've only watched it for about 10 seconds, and I tried to watch it a bit longer to understand what was going on. But it's physically haunting. It's petrifyingly haunting. I can't describe it. And first and foremost, I just saw that utter injustice. I mean, it was so, him on the floor. I mean, I don't know much about criminal law and about how police do things, but I saw that, I thought, that's inhumane. That's cruel. And I thought, no, I have to stand up and be a voice, especially as going to be a leader in the church. I can't sit back and be complicit in my silence. And it affected me. It actually it put me in a strange place, actually, where I felt like I couldn't talk to you. Let's say we FaceTime and things sometimes and discuss many things. And I felt, actually, there are many things we aren't equal on. I mean, I'm an ordinand, you're a priest. Our ages are different, blah, blah, blah. But as two human, brother and sister in Christ, I believed in our equality. And actually this time, not through any of our conversations to what the world, what anyone's done to me, but I felt actually we're so unequal. But I couldn't sit in your vicarage, I couldn't discuss it with you, I couldn't even I needed to speak to somebody here who was a senior team leadership, and actually I thought, I've got no equal standing in the room, just as 2 men, And that was really hard to take in myself. And I would do a walk in the evening, and I walked with my head in shame, being black. And I said to somebody said, as a black woman said to me, a grown-up black woman said to me, sometimes it's best to be dead, to be black in moments like this. And she said that to me last Tuesday when we went for a sort of FaceTime walk in our respective areas. And I was 23 years late, emotionally, to the party of this. Well, I arrived, and it was really hard to bear. And I thought, no, I'm gonna have my say now. I'm gonna, And so for me, there was a thing sort of, I saw Black Lives Matter, and actually that really meant something. It's not a cliche line.
Yeah.
I thought, actually, no, I'm going to put this on my social media page because I've got a few friends and people see, so I thought, right. And then we did Blackout Tuesday, and I thought, what, I feel who I am at the moment is nothing. So I'm going to black myself out on my social media accounts, and actually say, I'm standing up for George Floyd. I'm standing up for injustice on all racial matters. And then I saw on Wednesday morning that they were doing Take the Knee. And I thought, no, we have to. I need to play a part in this. And I took the knee outside of Ridley Hall in Cambridge at 6 p.m. I tell you this now, I've got knobbly knees, and I was on the floor for about 3 minutes. And that really hurt. That was uncomfortable. I've got a problem with my joints, but that was really uncomfortable for me. And I thought to myself, 3 minutes, and I had the liberty to move when I wanted to get up. George Floyd didn't have the liberty at all. And I thought, what, these 3 minutes of taking the knee in respect of him and showing the world, kneeling in solidarity was important, and showing that Black lives actually do matter. And I've been in conversations with senior clergy of different training, of a training institution here, and senior clergy in different dioceses about what can we do to help. I've had people call me, ringing me, saying, what do we do? How do we make things better?
You find that tiring? Because I think something I've noticed is that there is a desire now, I think, from more white people to come into this movement and be supporters of this movement. But I also look around at a lot of my Black friends, and I see white people ringing them, asking them questions. And I just think, do you sometimes feel like you're some sort of Blackopedia? Like, yes, here I am and I'm your answers. And that must be, how does that make you feel?
Sometimes it comes from a genuine place. It comes from a place of actually people want to, firstly they ask how I am and what can I do. And that is a nice thing to do, and I like to have those conversations.
Okay.
A couple of people have rang me and sort of saying, we want to help, it sort of came across like we want to help you people out. Like they were doing me a favour.
Mm.
Now, don't do me a favour by wanting to stand up to injustice and be anti-racist.
Mm.
If you tell me you're doing me a favour, which I have heard from other black people this week, that other people, white people telling them we're doing you a favour, that just shines out white superiority.
Mm.
I don't want your favours.
Mm.
And that's what I found tiring.
Mm.
I mean, and you know what? It's not only been tiring for the point of, from discussions with white people, it's been tiring from black people because it's sort of been the bane of my life for the last couple of weeks.
Mm.
I mean, you know this, being busy, I'm just finishing my second year, and this couple of weeks I wanted to tie off loose ends and finish writing my last paper. And I've actually not been in the space to be able to do that because I can't concentrate.
Mm.
And I've spent most of my week either on FaceTime, on phone calls, went on a social distant walk, discussing these matters.
Mm.
And I'm genuinely knackered.
Mm.
And it's the end of a week, and I promised myself on Friday that actually by the weekend, I'm going to sleep, rest, do things that I want to do, try and part racism, and then get back to work and the things I need to do for the end of term. And then, you know, we were together last night just debriefing for the end of the week. And other things come up on social media about people who think, you know, all lives matter, which is well and truly, that's a factual, you know, that's a fact. But they were not getting the point of Black Lives Matter. And that, then the comments and things that followed that particular incident that I saw last night, which I felt once again I had to stand up to, as it was on a Facebook friend that I wanted to try and educate, you know. Yeah, it's just it's draining, and you don't want to keep. It's not my job to educate.
Yeah, it's not the job of black people to educate white people out of ignorance and.
No, and I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna do it.
Mm.
I haven't got the. You know, it. No, I'm not gonna do it. Basically, and call me lazy, but I'm not sitting there to do that. I mean.
You said something quite interesting just now about you wanted to park racism. That's a really interesting turn of phrase. So do you mind if we just unpack that a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a desire that is obtainable to park racism?
No, we'll never be able to. We'll never be able to park it, I don't think. I mean, I would love to sit in a world. I pray one day that I have children, I have grandchildren. And I would love to sit in a world if the good Lord gets me to 80, 90 years of age and racism doesn't exist. And that my grandchildren look up to me and say, you know, life's so wonderful, Grandad. And I'll thank God it was wonderful for them, but I will also remind them. I would like to remind them. But I hope and pray for anyone with children, you know, any lives who suffer injustice and racism, that in years to come, that there will be a place where we can, where we're non-existent. Well, that's me living in the land of make-believe. I genuinely, from what I've seen at the moment, in media, in social media, through ignorance, sometimes naivety, I don't think we're going to be able to, I don't think that we'll be, I hope this has made a shift, and this has made an impact. And what George Floyd's death, I hope, will have made an impact in people's lives and want to change. And I hope that history always has the right story on this. But whether or not, when another problem comes up, we'll forget this, and then it comes round and round again, and we'll just be on a conveyor, like a carousel. We'll jump on, jump off, jump on, jump off. Until when? When is it going to be too late? You know, I don't know.
So what are some of the changes that are needed? What are some of the ways that white people need to change their attitudes and behaviours in order to mitigate against repetitions of this sort of history?
I think I've had a lot of white people recognise from other white people that there are things that have been done wrong in the last, you know, the way black people have been treated in the last 400 or 500 years. And I think recognition plays a big part. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying take ownership of what other people have done, because we're all individuals. I mean, you know, we've had conversations, and you're a big supporter and friend, and you hate injustice, but you recognise what white people have done.
Mm.
Now, I think people need to recognise that. I think before we can do anything else, otherwise you're going to sit in a place of actually, you're not going to learn anything really, because you need to sit and recognise that actually, perhaps that white person hasn't done anything wrong, but other people have through the years and centuries.
Mm.
Let's recognise that.
Mm.
Then we need to educate. And I think reading is a very good way of educating yourself, but that is not the only way. You need to have discussions, you need to have talks. You can't come at us, when you come at us nervously, which I'm not surprised, I can understand why people are, or worried, etc. It makes things 10 times harder to have a discussion about. I mean, I've had 2 discussions this week with, especially with a friend and colleague who was very nervous. Look, I said to him, this is a safe space. I'd rather you say things and we can discuss it and then you can understand, rather than, jumping around the houses. Otherwise, we're going to get nowhere. Mm. So don't, try and understand, but speak, talk, have a conversation. And stand up to injustice, I think, in any form. Not only racism, that's a big part, but I mean in any form. That's one thing I've learned to do this week, in the last couple of weeks. Because my 3 top tips to anyone who's had a phone call with me and said, what can you advise? I say, if you're a Christian, pray. Mm-hmm. Pray for peace and unity. Just pray. That's what I've been doing. Secondly, educate yourself. And then thirdly, stand up, be counted. If that means you standing in a room by yourself, and you're going to be the lone speaker in seeing these injustices and actually taking a stand, then do it. I mean, years ago, I hated to be the only one in a room. And I think if there was a problem going on, I would probably be the first one to sort of keep my mouth shut. But now I'll stand up. And that's what I saw last night when we were talking and I was scrolling through something and I saw it. I scrolled past it and the anger was bubbling inside and I couldn't let that go. Yeah. So I had to say something. And that was putting my neck out on the line. Yeah. It could cost, these things could cost friendships, could cost families. But I think in this day and age, we need to try and make a difference, because changed lives change lives. Now, I said that on Sky News years ago, but that was on a totally different topic. That was on vocations. Yeah. But now, I think it's very much needed in this way. It cannot be that another death, another brutal killing, for us to then again look at how we do things. Mm-hmm. How many lives will it take before action can be made? Mm-hmm. Because it could be my life, it could be my children's life, it could be any black life that we all know and love. And I don't want to see that. I cannot bear to see what we saw on the 25th of May, because that video haunts me at night. At 1 a.m. it haunts me. And it's just closing my eyes. And I didn't know George. I didn't know his family. And if anyone tells me it doesn't matter because it's in America and not here, you lose. That's another point that's been lost. We have to be really careful what's going to go on, because what's happening over there could easily come over here. We've seen it already. And it can't happen. Mm-hmm. So I think really recognition, going back to your question, recognizing that things are wrong, wanting to make a change, and educating and discussing. If you can do all those things, it pushes us a bit further along this injustice road, because something has to change. It really does.
Mm. What change would you like to see in the church, as somebody who's about to enter into lifelong ministry within the Church of England, knowing that it is flawed, knowing that it carries with it the benefits of profits from slavery and piggybacking off of systemic racism? What changes are yet to be made that you would like to see in your lifetime of ministry?
So it's quite interesting. We're having this conversation today, the day that John Sentiment retires as Archbishop of York. Mm. And he was, I mean,
being faced by a middle-class white man.
Yes, I mean, maybe that's another story for another day. But if I could be half he is, for a start, some man I will be. And I saw in a paper this morning, I think it was The Guardian or something, that out of over 100 bishops, there are only 5 BAME suffragan bishops. I would like to see a change in leadership and see people who look like me at the top. Because if we look at all the consecrations that are taking place, if we put all the bishops together now, so we see the photographs of the College of Bishops, it is very much very white. Now, I have no problem with, and this is my opinion and my alone, with women in ministry and women bishops. That isn't my issue. I've never had an issue with that. I'm a flag bearer for it. What my problem is at the moment is, it's all well and good. We're looking at the top table of leadership and seeing bishops being elected and other bishops moving around. But I think in the last 2 years, I've only seen Rose Hudson, who's now the Bishop of Dover, and really she's the Bishop of Canterbury. And I met Bishop Carraway, I think his name is, a suffragan Bishop of Southwark. Yeah. Other than those two people, really, it's very white. And it's sort of like, what's going on here? So let's make a difference in the way we can see, let's make BAME people, give them a platform, not a platform, but give them a space where actually they can take leadership roles.
Absolutely.
I think we do. I think the Church of England is trying to really get to grips with minority ethnic concerns. I mean, Dr. Elizabeth Henry, I mean, she's retired this week. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, what a week to retire. She is a national BAME advisor for the COV. I mean, you couldn't write it really. I should have, I spoke to her a couple of years ago, if I could speak to her again now, I'd say, wait a bit longer, help us try and figure this out. She has really tried to go around to different dioceses, different churches, and to make a difference. And I think that's all we can ask, is actually to speak about it. So I think the change is, we need to prayerfully consider what to do, and look at different ways, but act and think and actually see, make it equal. Because there's no equality at the moment in different things in the Church of England on BAME and leadership and also in lay leadership as well. Let's sit down and balance all these things out. Let's make it a church for a different world. And especially after coronavirus and other things going on, we're going to need a new church. We can't go back to what we've had before. So, yeah, I think in a way we've got to sit down, look, and plan together. See what can we do here, and it's continuously. We're never gonna. You and me know this. And you're a vicar and I'm an ordinand. We're not in jobs that you become. You work on a banking office floor, and if you get your promotions, you'll make it by the time you're 60 with a big salary and a big pension. We'll never reach the top. We've always got things to learn, as everyone does. So we will never get there. We'll always have to learn and learn and learn and learn. But as long as we push ourselves there and want to forcibly do that as a church and not hide behind any pillars on this matter, we'll get somewhere. That's the change we need to see. We need to see productive change and active. It has to be active. We can't be silent anymore.
And I think silence is a really hot topic at the moment, because for me, I've watched far too many people in leadership, in church leadership, not say anything because it's safer.
Yeah.
And I think we are not called as Christians to speak about safety of the world.
I tell you this now, and I remember as a child when me and my brother used to fight, or when we could play our parents off with one another. We tried to as kids, as every child does. My parents would never take sides with one of us. It was always neutral. And that is what you do, I think, as parenting, unless something was really wrong, which we rarely had that, and I hit him too hard and it was right, something like that. But otherwise, they were very neutral on that, and that's the right thing to do, I think, as a parent, I think. But if we with grown adults and problems like this, and including with children, you cannot take sides when it comes to things like this, because that just helps the oppressor. That gives a voice to the oppressor, and that gives nothing to that doesn't have anything to the oppressed. Mm-hmm. Silence just fuels the tormentor, mm-hmm. and it does nothing for the tormented. Mm-hmm. Silence is sometimes when you don't know what was the old saying? If you don't have anything nice to say nout. Mm. But I think that's a load of rubbish in some aspects like this, because actually, if we say nothing, nothing is going to be changed.
Yeah. And it is an uncomfortable truth. They are uncomfortable words to say and uncomfortable words to receive, I think, for white people. But we've been so protected for centuries that we think that we're above being out of our comfort zone. Everything we build around us, the systems and ways that we live, education, the church, finances, is all sort to protect our comfort as white people, and to make use of the vulnerabilities of Black people, that I think a lot of church leaders just are not ready to enter into that discomfort.
It's hard. It really is hard. I mean, I have sat in meetings and actually seen injustice on different things, but I've not had the courage, the backbone to actually say that was ridiculous. Mm. And that is hard. And I've been in white Yorkshire pubs where racist slurs have been thrown at me recently. Very recently, and I've said nothing. Because you worry about, is it going to change the atmosphere? Is it going to go to town? About, these are my family's friends, And I thought to myself, I should have stood up. And that's my problem, which I'm having to now deal with. Mm. So I know how uncomfortable it can be on many levels.
And yes, it will change the atmosphere, but I'd much rather a disrupted atmosphere that is ready to be reformed than the atmosphere that currently thrives off of oppression. That can't be the atmosphere and that we seek to maintain. It just can't. Goodness.
So I think we have to, I'll always say, let's not stay silent on things like this anymore. Let's stand up, be counted for. Let's get to a point where you and me really are equals in society's view. Because one thing I've felt the last 3 weeks is that actually we aren't. Mm. So it would be nice to get back to that level. Mm. And that, you know what, I went for a walk the other day with a senior team member here at Ridley, and I was listened to. Sometimes listening is a key, and he listened to me, which is very important. And he's going to try and find ways to perhaps put some of the things I've said into practice. And it was the first time I had a walk, and actually it was a social distance walk physically with somebody, and I felt like an equal because they were open to listening. There was no defense from their side. When defense comes in, problems this is not me attacking white people when we're having these conversations. There's no attack. It's about learning and understanding. And it's about building a place where we can be equal.
Well, fantastic words to end with, Benjamin.
My Sunday name, well, it's like I'll tolerate that on a Sunday.
You can tell your mother. Thank you so much for joining me, for sharing some of your experiences. They're not easy to listen to and receive, but far less easy to experience and live through, I imagine. So thank you for that, and thank you for those tips of recognition, education, and standing up with an open voice and listening as well to our brothers and sisters along the road. And I really do pray that the rest of your time in Ridley Hall is fruitful, but I also pray that as we get to grips with this new world post-pandemic and driven by, hopefully, reformation from the Black Lives Matter movement, I do pray that we begin to construct something that paves the way for equality, for you and I to stand side by side, or perhaps even you as my bishop in the future.
Well, I highly doubt that, and as I would say, that's not for me, but
They all say that. I think you have to, don't you? They won't give you the job otherwise.
That's it. It's part.
If they can find any evidence that you've ever said that you might like to be bishop, that's it. They won't give it to you.
I don't get it at all.
They won't put you
The
down.
way I feel at the moment, I don't want it. I just want to sleep. Let me sleep. No, but thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you very much. Well, anytime. So I'm sad that you didn't wear a hat, but hey.
When I get a normal haircut, when service can presume, and I can go back.
That word normal. Perhaps you shouldn't say that.
No, but perhaps, well, I mean, in normal times, in a new normal.
I see. When you get a haircut.
I will get a haircut. And
then
then
I'll do chat in a hat.
Chat in a hat.
I look forward to it.
Suitable hat for it.
I look forward to it very much so. Thank you very much. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
Is pink and white. If the ground is black and yellow, it's the same way you showed me. Nod my head, don't close my eyes. Halfway on a slow move. It's the same way you showed me. If you could fly, then you'd feel south. Up north's getting cold soon. The way it is, we're on land. So I'm someone to hold true. Keep you cool when it's still alive. Won't let you down when it's all ruined. Just the same way you showed.